Ah, get out of here. Hmm. Where did the chat go? Seriously, chat window disappears? Typical. If you're talking out there, people, I will find you. There we go. The chat window just disappeared on me. Rich W, Kyle, Tim, Stockholm's, man, boy. There's a bunch of people here that I don't recognise. Hey, Sutterbridge, Ed, Margarita. I'm just getting the panel off a board, a machine, and then we can get started. Get started with the I'm Not Lewis Rossmann show. Because if you are here from Lewis Rossmann's recent posts saying that you should come here to watch videos, please be aware that I am not Lewis Rossmann, obviously. I'm a bit better looking. I don't have the same sort of behavioural trends. I don't tend to have a crazy hatred of Apple and all that sort of stuff. I'm a bit of a middle of the road type guy and a bit older. So if you're expecting some sort of rants and raves and all that sort of stuff, then yeah, you're going to be pretty bored about this. Okay. Alright, so we've got this MacBook open, so now I can show it to you all. I've also got a much simpler setup here. Just me, myself, and I. Okay, and it seems that... Yep, good on you, Chrome, you've done it again. Aha, now you're working. Unfortunately, due to my age, I do tend to need to have the text a little bit larger so I can see what everybody's writing, see what everyone's complaining about. 6:22 a.m. in Union, Missouri. Okay. Hey BJ Trim, Newcastle, Kevin Whitehouse, Massera, hello, how's it going? At least Lewis doesn't... Yep, okay, Pernov's here to fight. Yes, but I can actually code unlike Lewis. Even if it is C code. Besides, everybody loves C. How can you not love C? C is what makes the computing world go round. And I've done a bit of a boo-boo already on the start there. I didn't disconnect the battery. Okay, so this has got liquid damage apparently. It didn't actually specify the explicit fault, but I can see there's liquid's gotten up in here. It does apparently turn on. So this may be more of a preventative thing. Let's see. Corrosion on logic board in a few places, does start up, does not. Let's see, job 43. Normally I've got a scanner gun that I can just put onto this QR code and it brings it up for me, but that's in the other room. Does not detect solid state drive. Drive reads okay in another machine. Right, okay. This will be fun. But you can sort of see why it might not detect the solid state drive. There's all this liquid over here. So since it's liquid damage, we'll just take the whole thing out. No point pretending that we're going to get away with just leaving it in here and magically curing it. Martin Lewis actually wrote my own stuff. It's just extension upon extension of software that I wrote, well, it's a good 20 years ago now. So, yeah, it's getting a little long in the tooth. It's almost getting old enough to be upgraded to COBOL. Oh, I'm nothing like Lewis. In many ways, we're a bit of an antithesis of each other. Hey, Nathan. Hey, what the? Hey, Pedro and Damaris. Okay, so apparently this works. Man, that's got to be close to not working. It's got a fair bit of trash on it. Anyway, put the sticky sticker on it. These ones can be removed. They are not impossible to remove to cause customer rage. Okay, that's lifted. You're out of there. Unlike Lewis, I tend to show the boring parts of the repair, like getting it out. Admittingly, I don't show the ultrasonic. You miss out on all the ASMR. Okay, that's that. I was supposed to do this morning, but I just end up having other jobs I need to get done. And I did end up fixing that iPhone 6S from last night. And yes, it was the coil in the end. There was a combination of many things. There was the fatigued trace that had to be fixed, and that did improve things. But then it also did require a proper coil, which I did steal from the 6S Plus. Hey, Sabatino. Sir, I am trying to use a little more flux. A little more. But of course, you know, I've got to pay for that flux. He doesn't. Or at least not directly. Hey, Nick. Crap, where did I pull that from? Yeah, it's not critical. They are the same screw sizes. I just like to keep them organized like this. Just simply so if I do have some kind of a brain fart, then at least I've got half a chance of getting it right. Man, I nearly killed that camera connector. That would have made me cry. Hey, Buzz Cola. Trying to see what else I need to disconnect before I try reefing this out. Got the backlight one there. With these boards, we generally don't take the fan out when we lift up everything. What are you stuck on down here? And in saying that, looks like this one doesn't want to come out. There we go. We got, I don't know, so can you see that there? Can't really. There's a good amount of liquid that's coming here, which means the screen could well and truly be up the creek in a couple of weeks. So I'll have to make sure that I set out a disclaimer with the customer and say, well, the liquid did get near your screen, so you may have to have an expensive repair later. Hey, Farphone. Let's see, I have a 1466 with a cracked plastic hinge cover. What a pain in the bum it is to salvage, but yeah, those clutch covers can be a pain. You got to slide them off and all that, but yeah. Let's see, you can see corrosion there. Something's burned there. This is going to be a moderate amount of janitorial work. Okay, oh, just realised the microscope camera is not up and energized, so we'll get that going. Don't need my label. Hey Matthew Walker, how's it going? Frickin' camera. I need to change to HDMI just so that I can get away from these dramas. That is the picture you can see there is that's better. Alright. Let's have a looky-loo. Right, so keyboard backlight is borderline. Screen amazingly didn't die. Fire fan, it's kind of like with karate belts. So if you get up to the black glove level, yeah, that's in your supreme repairer. Translucent ones are the lowest level, and then you go white, blue, turquoisey green, red, and then black. So yeah, I'm a few levels down. Hey Lexi, haven't seen you around before. We're trying to fix this. We supposedly have no solid state drive, but it's a general cluster of faults due to liquid damage pretty much everywhere. This one is like the liquid came in and then someone went all hippopotamus on it and splattered it everywhere. For people who live in Africa or know about hippos, they will know what I mean about the splattering effect. Pedro, 4924 actually, Pionov. Oh my god, Pionov did not guess it first time. Quick, something wrong with the universe. There's some weird different types of corrosion going on here. I mean, that's more like flux than it is corrosion. But, let's back out a bit. I'm looking for something that's going to tell me why the solid state drive isn't running. I'm hoping I will find some corrosion and junk up near where the solid state controlling electronics are. Hope. That might be it. I could be wrong, but it might be it. Let's just check around everywhere else. Yeah, let's check that. See what that is. No, unlike professionals, I actually don't remember what everything does on these boards. I'm kind of like a Turing machine. I basically have a very limited memory and I just sort of go one bit at a time. But I can keep going for quite a while. Sometimes too long, according to my better half. 4924. Hey Don Matthews, Chris Rubius. Alec, we already know that this does boot, or at least we've been told it does boot. Not that that means anything. Okay, that's the system RTC clock generator. Okay, it's not likely that that would actually be the fault, but it's amazing that it's running with that damage. That will have to all be cleared up. So impressive that the MacBook, in spite of all this, still runs. This little fellow here, that could be an interesting one. What are you? Q5158? No, you're just a CPU thermal trip. A Spidey and Wexrex. Mr. Litterus. I'm not going to say your name properly. Nice try. Alright, so we haven't actually found why the SMC isn't running. No, not the SMC, the solid state drive. It could just be the connector itself. We'll just keep looking around first before we embark on the process of being a janitor again. I suppose the other way I can do it is do it in reverse and look up where the SMC various bits and pieces are and check on the board. I think we might do that. Could be a wee tad quicker. Could just be corrosion in the port. It could even be that. Let's have a check of the port. End on. Oh yeah, that's pretty actually mucked up. Unfortunately, I can't get a good angle on that. Come on. Amazingly difficult to get a good angle on that. There is corrosion in there. I'm not sure if it's enough to cause the solid state drive to stop. Yeah. Ultrasonic might be the other way around. Robert, thank you for the $5. Got my first microscope today. Just want to say thank you, Lewis, Jester, and Tim. You guys have been an amazing inspiration to me. Oh well, what have you got a board to play with today? Can be frustrating when you have a microscope and nothing to use it on. I suppose you can go out and get yourself a couple of splinters and try and remove them. That's always fun under the microscope. Oh, I'm gonna... Let's see. Yeah, the whole board is a bit messed up. Okay, let's go. Let's have a look. Probably easier if I just look at the connector. U3740. Okay, so it's on the other side next to a bunch of stuff. That looks tolerably okay. Yeah. Well, definitely I'll go fix up that clock circuit, because that will die within a matter of minutes, days, hours, something like that. Which is on the same board that I was looking at. What's that there? As well as that temperature sensor here. Interesting that it's got the burning effect here. Like something vented out. Okay, let's get the fume hood on. Whoops, no one can see. There we go. No, that's overhead. That's what we want. Hey, ZX. Where's that flux gone? Oh, damn you. Alright, I've been playing with iPhones today, and as a consequence I've got the stupid 6mm or quarter-inch for you non-metric types. I know 6mm is not actually quarter-inch, but it's close enough. I'm trying to meet you guys halfway, you crazy hippies. Alright, I'll put the 9mm on. Trying to work on a MacBook with the 6mm nozzle is just... it's a little bit insane. It's a little bit difficult to do it. You can't get enough heat down. You can at least work on an iPhone with the 9mm tip sometimes, if you got to reflow half the board. Oh yeah, we lost one there. Pretty sure that is the RTC 3v3 line. Oh yeah, the damn 10mm. Goodness knows how many times I have bought that socket and then lost it. 10mm sockets are like single-use items. They're like needles. Actually, maybe that's the 3v3. And the winner is... right, yeah. Okay, this is the RTC 3v3, and that one there is 3v42. So, both taking a beating, so it was a good thing that we took it off. We'll give it a bit of a clean up. So can you make a video with one of more calm and technically apt furry baby? Oh man, I don't think I've got anyone like that. I think my ginger girl might do it, Mia, but yeah, she'll whinge and complain a lot. The trouble is, of course, naturally I don't bring him into this room at all. Maybe in about 6 months' time I'll do that. But for now, it's not really going to happen, unfortunately. Hey, Richard Pearson. Like an Aussie or a... I wouldn't mind bringing Micro into the videos a little bit, but the poor little chap is fairly sensitive. He's the one that has diabetes. So twice a day he gets his injections. I'm just very glad that we managed to work out what it was that he was being ailed with before things got too severe. Hey Ed, making coffee, eh? Yum. Hopefully I can finish this quick enough that I can go get one. Hey Toast Tech. I could tell, I wasn't sure where all the traffic was coming from the other day, or yesterday, but I could see there was a massive spike of people turning up and watching. And then I could also see there was a bit of a spike of snarky comments and the typical trash that you expect to see from Rossmann type videos. And so there's a lot of people out there that seem to have a very disappointing life at the moment. And so I enjoyed just eliminating them from the chat. I love the ones where people are like, I wasted my time watching this, and then they got to waste another 10 minutes telling you that. And it's like, wow. Yeah, time is both valuable and invaluable at the same time. Or does it mean the same thing? Wexrex business is being really good actually. The CV19 has in fact improved business quite a lot. I suppose it's currently perhaps not socially acceptable to say that too loud. Yeah, Buzzcull, I don't think I'm going to be conformally coating my boards. You can get spray coatings, like I do have a few cans of a clear spray. You can solder through it, and yeah, you just put it on the circuitry. But unfortunately with a lot of these boards, because they're impedance matched tracers and all sorts of stuff, when you start spraying random things on there that they didn't have in mind when they were designing it, you can throw things out, and most of the time it really doesn't save the board the next time any liquid comes along anyway, so it's a bit pointless. Okay, I need a clock chip. I do have new ones. Hey Gonzalo. Oh, Sinclair, that's nice of you to say. I'll be sure to let Lewis know next time I talk to him. Yeah, we don't actually talk much to each other. It's more just a mutual respect and disdain we have for each other. Alright, so hopefully this is the right clock chip. Let's see, SLG 3MB148. Better hope it is. Yep, it's the same one. And unfortunately it appears it's my last one, so I better make sure I get this right. Otherwise I'm going to have to start using donor ones. Bum, bum, bum. Let's see. Pin 1 down to the crystal, like so. Hey Warren Stamps, how's it? Ah, the good old Seppos, yes. That's a bit of a long-winded explanation for some people as to why Americans get called Seppos here in Australia. Basically because we originally would also call them Yanks, and that has a similar sound to septic tank, and so you call them Seppos, which is really not nice. Hey John White, how's it going? Yes, Chris, that is quite right. A lot of people, that is why they watch Lewis, and that's why I thought I'd better pre-warn or tell people that they're not going to get much of that around here. It's not really my style. I don't consider myself to be sufficiently educated in politics and things like that in order to be able to hold a viable discussion about it. Sarah, if the chip looks okay, I mean, I do sometimes use them, but if I have good known working stock on hand, as in a fresh pack of them, then I do prefer to use the fresh pack. My god, I can't get this solder to stick. Where did that part go? I swear there was a part there. Oh, that's right, I gotta replace that cap because I removed it before. 4924. More flux, honestly. This is not a flux orgy. Yep, I did eat a resistor there. I had a feeling I'd eaten a resistor. Another place that often happens is if you're working on a 3332 board and you're trying to do the reflow or the solder joins on the U8900, and you're getting in there and trying to saw clean them, and it can be very easy to eat one of the resistors there. And when you do that, no, I was wrong. Damn it. Come on, Paul. Yeah, that one was there. Ha! There is no... Oops, squeaky. Anyway, I made a mistake there. Thought I'd eaten a resistor, but I hadn't. So I'm going to put it back. What am I doing here? Please stand by while we deal with Paul's technical brain difficulties. Okay, we need that one off the corner of the chip. Right, no wonder I was thrown, because that has been taken from this board already. That's why I couldn't understand what was going wrong. Because I'd already stolen it. Let's hope the 3476 has the same configuration, and it might. Hey Jose. Just had the awkward drop off of 10 iPhone XS Max. For me to fix an OLED. Oh, is that US dollars he's offering you there? That's some hefty money. Yeah, this is a really disgusting looking donor. This is why donors are such a pain at times, is you spend a moderate amount of money on them, but half the time they're like this, they're just crapped out and corroded. So you end up needing about 2 or 3 donors in order to be able to get enough parts to fix things. Just gonna reflow this again. Mario, that's an interesting thought. Yeah, naturally we melted that. That's fantastic. I'm thinking the solid state drive issue may get resolved in the ultrasonic cleaner. May. Let's see what this junk is. Are you flux or are you something else? I don't know what that is. It's kind of like flux, but it doesn't seem to be soluble. We'll try some water flux mix and see if that, not water flux, water alcohol mix, see if that helps. Okay, whatever it is, it was soluble in water, and now it's gone. What I put down on there before was not fully water, it was just about 20% water. But then the next slot that I just put down then, that was 99% isopropylene. I really don't know what that was though. It could have been bug source. Hey, Paulie Lewis. Bug source, that's the word for it. These sort of jobs can be a little bit frustrating because you find all the faults the corrosion and things like that on areas other than what you're actually looking for, and that's problematic. Hey Dot Music, welcome back. I remember you from the other day. So it's fine. I should have a look at the solid state drive as well. Ooh. Okay, this is our ISL 6259. If that was a major short there, then it's unlikely that machine would have booted. Put some flux down, hit it with the iron, and see what happens. Hey Mark Fabian. Now the cats are good. Up to their usual trouble, of course. This isn't going to really be... You shouldn't be really using a micro pencil for this, but... Whatever that corrosion is, actually, it's sticking around. You can see it's still... sitting under that chip a little bit. Have a look at what those pins are for. Calico, yeah, I mean the job note says that it actually has booted, it just can't find the solid state drive. So we do know that it hasn't been annulled yet. I'm just checking with U7100 to see what those pins were that had the corrosion. So I think it was 9 and 10. So it's charge AMON and SMC bus SMC5 G3 SDA. I know you can't see it. That's just battery charger. Yeah. Ooh, ice cream fund. Thank you, Masura. Best MacBook repair kit. I think they're fairly standard. Yeah, FX951 for the soldering iron, quick 861 DW for the hot air, and the amp scope. Yeah, okay, look, I'm being naughty here. I really need to pull this chip because I need to see how far that corrosion went underneath. I'm just trying to avoid it. I mean, best is subjective, of course, based on what criterion you're trying to go for. But if you're sort of looking for best in terms of industry standard that is proven to work and not obscenely expensive, then yeah, that's the sort of where I'd be heading. Reball kit, well, no idea. I've never had a reball kit. I just buy the stencils that I need and yeah, stuff around from there. Come on, let go. .music. The reason being I've put that post up is because people turned up yesterday or the day before or whatever. I think it was yesterday. And a lot of them were kind of thinking, because they were directed here by Lewis, and a lot of them were sort of behaving like, well, this is nothing like Lewis Rossmann. There's not enough Apple hate and so on and so forth. So I'm just simply letting people know that when you come here, you're not going to get Lewis. Oh, Eric. Oh, that sucks. You're at 144. Lewis doesn't really hate Apple as such. It's just a very handy thing to hoist the flag that other people can rally under with a common sort of viewpoint. So he's actually been very smart about that, whereas I'm not. And I'm fairly sure he doesn't hate. He just intensely dislikes, just like I'm intensely disliking the fact that I've got my micro pencil there. Paul, put the micro pencil away. We'll jump back to, we'll swap over to the K tip, the KN or KU, whatever it is. No, we've actually got the JSO2 instead. Alright. JSO2 it is. Oh, nice. And that was the soldering iron station telling me that I had not inserted my tip properly. I have to do all this again. There are some reasons that I dislike what Apple does, but then likewise with pretty much any company or anything for that matter. I even dislike a lot of things that Linux does, even though I'm a great big proponent of Linux. I think Apple engineering probably actually does a pretty good job overall, but they're probably regularly redirected to take paths they don't want to by marketing. I mean, there are some things that you sort of obviously think, oh wow, you know, how could they continue to muck that up? Like the keyboard's a pretty good example. The whole keyboard fiasco is just, yeah, they shouldn't have gone down that path, but they did. Hey, Black Lupus, yes, definitely an imposter here. An Australian one, no less. And unfortunately, I'm not Chris Hemsworth, so you can't all just fawn over me, hiding your inner desires to be with a man like Chris Hemsworth. Huh. I was saying to my wife today that Chris Hemsworth's basically become the new Hugh Jackman. My soldering iron tips last quite. I haven't had to replace any of them in the several years that I've been doing this, like with the Hakko. So maybe I'm just nice to my tips, I'm not sure. Yeah, the trouble with people like Chris Hemsworth is they're disgustingly likable, and that's just offensive. Yeah, from an engineering perspective and from quality of board design and things like that, I really don't have a lot of complaints about Apple. I mean, I squawk about their iPhones mostly because they have shrunk down things quite a lot, and that's really more my own limitation and not their issue as such. I do believe they are running into some materials limitations, which is causing the constant spate of, oh man, come on, Paul, flux. Things like the 6 Plus Touch, 7 audio, all that sort of stuff, all the cracking traces. I know a lot of people call it FlexGate and things like that, but I'm going to bet at the end of the day it's actually a materials design issue in the sense that because the traces are so fine and on the top layer, it's just, they're basically hitting the limitation of PCB manufacturing. And the edge, damn it, get here. Ah. I need to change the temperature of my soldering iron tip and I can't find the damn Hakko key. It's that lame. Oh, you are just not getting in there, are you? Yeah, I'm always using original Hakko tips as well. I don't really see much point in getting the cheap ones. Come on. Let's get some assistive heat here just to help the iron fillet out those. Now the downside is that it causes the flux to run away. Let's put some more flux. Let's drop it down to 250. Hey 5D. Did someone already tell you that you look like Benny from ABBA? Oh man, Benny from ABBA. I can't believe no one has ever said that before. I'm not sure whether I'm gonna feel happy or bad about that. Ask me in 50 years or so. Damn it, this is really killing me, this is. Lewis's flux just... Usually the first thing that tends to happen with tips is that you lose the plating and it won't, won't hold the solder on the tip anymore. I've been told I look like the guy out of Foo Fighters. Some random people tried to butter me up and told me that I looked a bit like Keanu Reeves when my hair is out. That was very nice of him, but I wish I could look that good. When my hair's out and I'm... anyway. I guess people find certain attributes in your appearance and they basically hone in on that, and from there it's all over. It doesn't matter if everything else doesn't match. They just sort of go, well, you look like so-and-so. Did Lewis troll me today? Nah, thankfully not. It's just he sent a bunch of people my way because he's not doing much in the way of board repairs himself at the moment. So he thought he would help people out. Ooh, there's some nastiness under there. What do you control, little chip? Help people out and tell them to, come and try this channel. You're an audio amp. You don't really matter. Today. Maybe tomorrow you will. I'm just going to lift that up, have a look. It's again, it's not to do with the solid state drive, but it did have corrosion on it. I want to see if it's dug in under the pads or anything. It can be all too easy for corrosion to dig in under a pad and you can't see it. I had one job where the 3v3 coming out of the RTC generator, this thing over here, the cap looked perfectly fine, but corrosion had gotten in under... Oh, you're never going to get anywhere with 250 pull. Come on, 460 is what you want. Yeah, you couldn't tell from the top, but when you lifted the cap up, it was all corroded away, and the little nub was disconnected. That looks tolerable. Hey, Kurt Door. See, the Americans are waking up, or from the continent of America. Louis Donofrio. Yes, I am the Paul Daniels that Louis routinely has harsh words about when he can't work out how to use the software properly. What's most agonizing about those scenarios is that usually I am there and I'm trying to tell him what to do. Or, yeah, the key command he needs or something like that. But unfortunately he can be a bit like a drowning swimmer out in the surf. And when you go to try and rescue him, he just ends up taking you out, sinking you under as well, rather than relaxing for a second and getting saved. That's okay. I forgive him. I'm just looking at the board view in case people are wondering why I'm pulling these expressions. Pardon me. Alright. Hey, Riston UK, Southwest Kitties here too. Anything on the iPhone boards? Last I checked, Paul said he hasn't got them yet. 5D thinking, if you go onto Badcaps forum and you look up BVRE, you have to type this in, badcaps.net, search for BVRE. You look up that and you will find iPhone board views for Flex Board View. Generously put there by someone on the internet that wasn't me. Unfortunately, I cannot get involved with things like the board sharing and stuff like that because I'm in Australia, and Australia has a federal, a trade agreement with the United States, and that trade agreement includes property rights and stuff like that, which basically means if I step out of place, Apple can just knock on my door tomorrow morning and they don't have to do anything much about it. They can just go, "Hello, Mr. Daniels, we're here to take you away." Okay, they won't really quite do that. They'll send me a summons or something like that. Interesting enough, that thread somehow happened to get pinned on the schematics request section. I did notice that pin. I didn't do it. Nothing to do with me, but yeah, I noticed it was. Why doesn't Apple work with you guys and not against your good faith? Mostly, Lewis, because every time we fix a board, that's one less sale for Apple. And Apple's primary objective is to make money for their shareholders now. Oh wait, there's no... yeah. And yeah, by law they have to make the money as much as they can. And so they're basically just doing that by stopping people repairing them. So by law they're compelled to do everything they can to inhibit the ability to not get a sale because someone fixed up something. Hello needs software. Oh god, that's so... Oh, this is... I'm impressed this thing boots. I'm worried about that MOSFET, to be honest. That's, yeah, that's nasty, nasty. Well, let's put down some water and alcohol mix again. Let's scrub it. I wonder if dentists are like this. You know, someone comes in with a bunch of rotten teeth and the dentist is like, oh boy, pay dirt. You know, they're going to get paid for it, of course, but just the joy of going through and fixing up the person's teeth, putting fillings in, knowing that those fillings will need to be replaced in another 5 or 6 years anyway. Yeah, Wayne Taylor, I'm actually really happy about the SE 2020 coming out because it's very much like the existing phones we got. Yeah, the iPhone, it's sort of like a crossover between the iPhone 8 and the 7, I think. The only thing I'm disappointed about is the fact that it has a glass back, which, as far as I can tell, is probably because they wanted to have the wireless charging. If they didn't need the wireless charging, I think they would have gone with the metal back, which I wish they had gone with. But, so basically it's just a long life iPhone 8 for the rest of the world. So I'm pretty happy about that. Is the ventilator repair all about money too, or is it more complicated? The ventilator repair is likely about money and control. To a lesser degree money, it's more about control. The companies that produce them want to ensure they can keep the medical corporations locked in to their service programs, which they of course can charge $1 billion for. So yeah, okay, I take that back. It is about money. The unfortunate thing for them is they kind of are in a market where what is this stuff? I mean, it's water soluble and it's gooey. I'm starting to wonder. Yeah, the medical field is one of those industries where human empathy and, yeah, save the children probably has a higher influencing factor on their choices than they would like. So as far as the boardroom's concerned, they're probably like, let the people die. But yeah, they do have to deal with the media and then social representation, stuff like that. Well, yeah, but the thing is, Don Matthews, how often do those companies regularly get sued? I mean, the last major thing I heard about someone getting sued was it GE for the the meshes that they were putting in women to assist with prolapse issues. That was about the last major sort of mass liability I remember seeing in medical stuff. Most of the time it's written in the contracts or something that they can't be dealt with, they can't be sued like that unless it's gross negligence or something. And prior to that, I think the only other one I can think of was the what was it, the X-ray machine or the CT machine that they stuffed up on and gave people some extremely high doses. Hey, Cormac. Johnson Johnson baby powder. Did that actually go through, or was that just a wishful thinking one? Most of this junk seems to be coming off with the water mix, so it looks nasty, but it seems to be coming off okay. Hey, Sickie. A single doctor probably gets sued successfully more often than any number of corporations in the world. Johnson settled out of court. Calico, was that for the mesh implants? Or something else? But yeah, that's the other thing. They settle out of court real quick. Which one was the dosage X-ray machine thing? Oh, for the powder. Really? People's flipping heck. The other problem is you get the people that just decide to get Sue happy. It almost seems like it's a personal lotto chance thing. It's like people go, oh boy, I finally found something I can sue for. Yeah, it's like getting a lotto ticket in life. It's like, well, everyone else is doing it, I'm going to do it too. Yeah. I have uncertain feelings about this board. So we basically have done nothing with the solid state card. Just going to fill that up, scrub it out a bit. Job of a lot of class action suits, the people who suffer get the pain. Yeah, exactly. It's the lawyers that win. Oh good, 5D, you found them. Excellent. You will need one of the latest Flex Boardview editions. But yeah, they should be there on the site to download. Now I really don't want to have to try and replace this connector. And I don't think I've ever had a situation where I had to. And I'm really hoping this is not the first time for that. Dave Jones is mentioning you in his videos more and more. He's now doing dumpster diving repair videos now. When was the last time? The last time I heard him mention me was about the what was it? The multimeter software. Unfortunately, my software would not work with his multimeter because his multimeter uses Bluetooth, and Bluetooth is great for if you're interfacing with your phones and things like that, but on Windows and Linux, the Bluetooth stack is, from a programming perspective, it's hell. That's about the only way I can describe it. I'm not sure what's worse, Windows or Linux. And it gets worse when it comes to using the low energy ones. Okay, I'm just trying to clear off a lot of this trash. This is not a proper cleaning, by the way. Do not give boards back to people after you've done this to them. Please put them through the ultrasonic and properly clean them. I'm just doing this to remove the bulk of the flux that I don't want on there at the moment. Yeah, pound off. I mean, what have they been trying to push Bluetooth for? Well, it's got to be more than 20 years now, and it just hasn't taken off. No one. It's too complicated. Yeah, that's pretty much actually it. It's too complicated. The software stacks are too heavy. USB is bad enough. Bluetooth takes it to a whole new level of stupid. That's my opinion, anyway. It would have been more ideal if they just simply came up with a wireless serial standard. Or a wireless USB, because quite frankly the Bluetooth is... you start getting into that and it becomes a nightmare. It's a bit like trying to do simple programs in Java. And before you know, you need half an operating system. You grow a long beard and you start playing with Emacs. So yeah, it's a gateway programming drug. Wireless USB did exist, being banned, and damn it. I wonder if it's a conspiracy. The USB people did it. Not the USB. The Bluetooth people did it. Now that MOSFET looks downright nasty on those pins. Now that is the, I think it's drain side, source side. Anyway, that's one side. I'm just not sure whether trying to get that off will not be easy, and I'll end up basically melting this, doing damage to that. It's the sort of thing you really don't want to do, so I'm going to just leave it alone. Especially considering it is functioning. Wi-Fi Direct isn't popular either, okay. Let's see, what do we got there? No, it looks healthy enough there. I think if they, I don't know, if they came out with like a simplified Bluetooth, but that won't ever work because it'll just be rolled into the existing Bluetooth software stack and it'll be anything but simple. I know they do have a sort of a degenerate mode, but yeah, it's just no fun dealing with the current Bluetooth stacks, software stacks. You sort of give up on your project halfway through. And for that reason, serial and USB will probably reign supreme for quite a while yet. Hell, I'd sooner do a slow serial wireless communication over 433 megahertz ISM units instead. Heck, I've done that plenty of times. It seems like a hack job, but it works. And you can get around about, 2400 to 9600 easily enough. I guess we should see if this still actually boots, since I have butchered it. Stick our chipmunk in. Get the chipmunk to scream. Forgot to take the DC inboard out. I'm just unscrewing the DC inboard from the chassis. Androx. Is it difficult to replace the lightning port on iPad Air 2? I have no idea. That sounds like a question for the likes of Chris Long, Jason, or Jessa. Definitely not me. I don't do a lot of complicated things with iPhones at all. I send them off to, I've got a local person in Australia, and by local I mean they're about 3,500 kilometers away, but that's local. That's, a short trip. I send them down to him, and he deals with it. He deals with the stress and tremors involved in trying to fix that stuff up. Oh wow, that is a seriously gnarly looking... I might have to actually throw that into the ultrasonic as well. That is nasty. No, it's cleaning up alright. Bit more brushing. The fun thing, of course, with MagSafes is when you get iron filings attached to it. It's a little harder to get that stuff off. Hey, Nick Basie. Let's see, your 2015 A1502 has recently become your favorite MacBook by fix. Mind you, first loved the A823-115. Yeah, I think a lot of us progress that way. We either start out the 2936 or the 3115, we get up to the A1466s, and I mean, I've always liked the 1502s, but I gotta say, as a machine for doing a bit of work on, the A1398 is becoming a bit of a favorite of mine because it's got the 15-inch screen. But for night time, I generally, when I sort of go off to sleep, I have my 1502 with me just to watch some, streaming or whatever. Right, let's see if this goes kapow wow. Well, it helps if you turn it on, Paul. There we go. Go, showing up on screen. Is this 2015? It's a 2015. Alright, so the fan's never going to spin. And this is where the chipmunk is really good. Because the fan's not going to spin, but this will tell you if you've actually got CPU activity, because the USB will go green, hopefully, or flicker. Hopefully. If it doesn't, there we go. There's our green flicker. So with that, we know the CPU's alive. You can get these chipmunks from Harold, who's over in, I think it was Denmark, is it? Damn it, is Harold around? Which A1398 did I mean? I'm not sure which one I've got, but I think it's one of the earlier ones. Yeah, I need to... so by having that, it lets you know that you've actually got a living machine. Yeah, I'm going to have to get the link for it now. I should just add it to my repair items. CMI, Zappa... Was it Holland, Denmark? Aren't they the same place? I don't know. Forgive me. He's the same guy that makes the GPU patch module that you put in for the 2915 board. Come on, where's your chipmunk, buddy? Chipmunk USB tester. Here we go. That's it there. So now he sent me a couple of these a while ago, and I've definitely found them to be extremely useful. Particularly for things like these 2015 boards where they don't spin up at all until you get to about 90 or whatever degrees. Now I've got to see if this will actually boot off a drive. I'm kind of wondering, I should put a spare one somewhere. Do you have Viso TV down under? I don't believe I do. Then again, I haven't really looked, so don't quote me on that. Yuck. Please tell me there is. Yes, there is. Dumb question. There doesn't seem to be a orientation here, is there? Can you orientate that the wrong way? Shit, you can. Okay, so that's going to be the underside. I hate connectors where you can plug it in either way, but electrically you cannot. Physically you can, electrically you cannot. Okay, so these are upside down. I don't know if the lightning actually falls under that category. But unless you've got the chassis, unless you've got this board in its chassis, you can actually plug it either way, it seems. Just going to change over to HDMI, plug it in, and hope things don't go kapang. You're obviously not going to be able to see what I'm looking at here, but I've got my test screen, my third test screen, sitting on the side, waiting to see if anything comes up here. So far I've got no signal. Still no signal. I don't know how long I'm going to have no signal for. Hey, Riston, UK. This isn't playing ball. Jose Luis Arasola Jr. Thank you for the $10. Yeah, we're not getting anything coming up there. So, that means that's wrong, or I don't know what. So we'll stick it back in the chassis and see what happens. I just prefer not to have to actually do that. Are you Lewis Daniels? Ha ha ha, very funny. Maybe I'm Paul Rossmann. Now remember, we haven't actually gotten to the point where we're testing, where we've done any tests on the solid state drive. Okay. Right now we've just cleaned up the trash that we could see so that we can even consider getting started. Really not a fan of some of these board installations. Like a 10 billion damn wires to juggle just to try and test something. Which then reminds me that I actually do have a 2015 screen that I could have used. Ugh. Oh well. No biggie. We'll do that for the next time when I've taken it out. Save me having to put it back into the chassis. I just don't use it often enough for me to remember that I actually have a 2015 screen for this. There's no point plugging any of that in. We'll plug in a speaker just to see if anything screams. Who's Hannah? I particularly don't like these keyboard connector setups because basically you have to abuse the flex to get it in. So I wouldn't call it deliberate design. What do you call it? Design to fail. But it is something that they could have, spared another millimeter or two. I think a lot of Apple stuff is like that, though. They've shaved it down to the last millimeter, and it's a bit frustrating. Well, we've got a bong, so it's a good start. Cars, of course, are notorious for doing that. Motorbikes, too. You'd think having a motorbike with the open frame and things like that would be easy to get access to. It's not. I remember even, like, I had my 1980s motorbike, and you'd go to, say, take the head off so you could do some tappet work on it, and they made it so that the frame would be, yeah, just 2 millimeters in the way of you taking the head off, and it's like, why? Well, this is booting, so, but it's booting a little strange. Okay, here it comes. We're alive. Okay, so this is going to be a problem, but holy crap, this is an ugly looking screen. My apologies to the owner of it, but it is. This is going to be a problem now because as we were discussing when we were trying to repair it, this board, there was nothing that was actually related directly to the solid state drive that was really overly corroded or looking wrong that we had to repair. The connector was a bit dodgy, so we cleaned that out, but was that really the fault? Or was it something else? So now we're going to have the problem of, okay, we can test it for several days and hope that it's fixed. But chances are you send this back to the person and it's going to fail when it gets there. And I hate these scenarios. So particularly when you're dealing business to business and they're relying on you to fix things and send it back, and they're telling their customers that, yeah, it's fixed. So they're not... Okay, I'm just... You shutting down properly? Yep, there you go. So as far as I'm concerned, this is actually now a problematic job for the fact that whether we have fixed it or not, it's Schrodinger's board. Yep. And we won't know the outcome until the user tries it. And then it could go either way. We'll put it through the ultrasonic. That might actually help a lot. But even still, no matter how much testing I do on this, it's going to be an unknown. I hate that so much. But it's working, and we definitely did fix up that clock chip area. If that had gone another week or two, then the whole machine would have shut down. And certainly there are some other corrosion points there that I was worried about. The ultrasonic should fix those up. Fingers crossed. And the battery looks like... What the hell? The battery's half floating? Have they taken this out? Yeah, this is not an original, I don't think. Looks like what is it, Fonzie battery? Yeah, Andrew, intermittent jobs and these no smoking gun jobs. They're the sort of two things I really don't like. Hey, Copaz, welcome. So my EFI chip that I ordered for a 2016 MacBook Pro displays some weird ASCII characters in start. Do you know what they could be? No idea. Sorry. I do love being honest when people ask me things and I'll go, no idea. It's nothing to you offensive or anything like that. It's just, it feels good to be able to openly declare that you actually have not a clue about something. It's like when people turn up at my doorstep and they're holding like some random Android phone and they go, I've got this problem and I'm like, I have no idea, I'm sorry. I said, then people tell these people, they're like, oh, go to Paul, he knows how to fix all this stuff. And I hate that because it's like, I really don't. Most of the time I'm Googling or something else. So there's a difference between having the knowledge, like a book, versus the techniques. And when it comes to things like Android phones and all that, most of the time it's not worth opening them up. And if they're things like the Samsungs, then they cost $1 billion anyway to get any parts for them, so it's definitely not worth opening them up. Especially if you damage something on it, and then the customer's all over you like a bad rash. And you got to go and all of a sudden fork out money for something that they forced you into doing. So yeah, no thanks. Let's see. Read some comments for a change. Build a tumbler to simulate Ozpost travel. Leave it. Yeah, Steve, that's actually not a bad idea. And I'll have some random person come along and kick the package a few times. And if it detects, the tumbler should also detect if there is a fragile label in there, in which case it should triple the intensity of the shaking. Pardon me. La, la, la. Remember how I mentioned my A1465? Yes. Suddenly turned off and wouldn't turn back on. Luckily it turned back on a few minutes and it hasn't happened since. Yeah, that's going to fail on you just when you don't want it to. Probably some corrosion on there and it's, yeah, just sort of touching just slightly on the contact pads. I had a college professor who said the greatest ability is to know where to find the answer rather than just knowing facts. I will agree with that greatly. I guess I'm biased because that's how I live my life. If Google disappears tomorrow, I'm in trouble though. See, still get people with 90s or 2000 laptops that want them fixed for 20. Oh, stuff that. No, yeah. Yeah. That's just bad news, isn't it? You know it's going to crumble in your hands if you touch that thing. Yeah, Wayne. Well, we know about Australia Post. It's even worse now than it ever has been, of course. But yeah, I think the hardest intermittent bad joint I ever had was an Asus triple five X555 board or something like that. And it probably took me a week to find it. And the only way I ended up finding it was using the hot air gun and just going over sections of the board until the problem would stop. Because it wouldn't boot at all. But then if you heated it up, it would start. And eventually I narrowed it down, and it was just one little resistor. It looked perfectly fine on the top, but yeah, underneath it had been etched away. And it was a simple fix once you found it. That's the other problem why I don't like over detailing my invoices to customers. Because if they see that you replaced a 5 cent resistor, which actually is probably more like 0.25 cents, if that, then they lose their heads over it because they're like, why does it only cost this much? Yeah, and it's like, you're charging me $300 for it. And it's like, well, it took a week to find it. And really, if I charge you by the hour, you probably could have bought several of these computers. But so I don't like to give people too much information in that respect because it just sort of makes them get a bit upset when they try to understand the cost of the invoice. How much do you think the Australian Post gals get paid to deliver your parcel? Well, you're talking contractors now? I'm not sure. I try to be as nice as I can to my contractor. You know, I say good morning to him every morning and try to help them, things like that. Although now with the COVID-19, it's a little harder. I've just got to stay behind my screen door and say good morning and thank you and have a nice day. That's about it. I think Australia Post contractors probably don't get paid a good rate, which is why there's a fairly high churn on them. Um, but at the same time, the trouble is that Australia Post costs, like as a person sending parcels, has 50% up in the last 10 years, and we've actually gotten the service that has been dropping in spite of that. So we used to have overnight express from here down to Brisbane maybe. So it's about a 1,500 kilometre trip. And we used to get express parcels delivered here on a Monday. Now we only get express parcels from a Tuesday because they are not processed through the Townsville station anymore. We're a satellite town off from Townsville. And the Brisbane overnight no longer happens. That's like 2 days if you're lucky, maybe 3. It's ludicrous. So we're getting charged a hell of a lot more and the service is dropping and the contractors are probably getting far less than usual anyway. What is it? $1.50 per parcel, and if it's not deliverable, they have to go get the parcel to the nearest post office by 4 p.m. Customer pickup. Yeah, it's a rough gig. I would not like to be a parcel delivery guy because I know they're getting the rough end of everything. And they certainly will get abused by people. There's no denying that. I do not like people who abuse people who aren't actually responsible for what went wrong. I think if you're going to have a complaint, find the person who's responsible for that and go complain to them. Fine, absolutely, I'm all for that. But when you start kicking the crap out of contractors doing the delivery, but it was actually someone else in the chain. Yeah, that's not on. Kind of in the same vein as the current populist sort of scenario of yelling at people stacking shelves in the supermarket because there's no toilet paper. So yeah, that's really their fault that there's no toilet paper. It just gets really riles me up when I see people abusing people for something that isn't their responsibility, even if they wanted to. It's like, well, I think I'm just going to yell at you because you're yelling at that person now, and at least I know you're responsible for yelling at that person, so I've got the right person. But I gotta admit, I chicken out there. I'm like, ooh, that's not nice. But then I always worry that you got some crazy psycho that'll turn around and start stabbing you, like Roberto. By the way, if you do subscribe and become a regular participant here, you will have to catch up on your Futurama, Firefly, IT Crowd, all the essential watching shows. Okay, we're just going to take this heatsink off. We're going to prepare this to go into the ultrasonic. Hey, Olgograd, interesting symbol there for, don't know how you managed to do that. Trump recently refused to give more money to the United States Postal Service until they raise their price and charge big shoppers. Yeah, I can understand where he's coming from on that. But the trouble is that's just going to blow back onto the consumer anyway. Yeah, it's a difficult one, and particularly when you've got places like China that subsidize the hell out of their, national, shipping is dirt cheap coming out of places like that because the government subsidizes it. But yeah, I don't doubt that there are a lot of efficiency issues within places like United States Postal Service, and that is the downside, and that is always one of the sort of drives to privatize companies. And you go, well, we'll improve the efficiency because the government ones are just lazy. And the trouble is it always goes too far. And what happens is the company, the business, whatever, just starts servicing the shareholders at the expense of the customers. As we see here in Australia with Telecom becoming Telstra and the Commonwealth Bank and now Medibank and Australia Post, and yeah, it's pretty much the same story all the time, every time. I'm sure there's probably some cases where privatization has actually been gainful, but I think Australia is not a good example of that. We just don't have the population density or the population for a lot of it to work well. Not that America... Yeah. Anyway. Well, this board is prepped to go into the ultrasonic, and that pretty much concludes our event tonight. Let me catch up on this. Let's see. Get annoyed if everything is crap unless it's a $2,000 name brand. I can understand that. I get irritated with that too. Like with this multimeter that I'm using, the Digikey 8145. I mean, I will not deny that it is a cheap meter. Cheap in many different ways. I mean, I have to write modifications in my software that is used for the display up there so that I can bypass the glitches in their firmware that annoy the crap out of me. But at the same time, for the price, it does what we need. It's not highly accurate, it's not highly precise, but for this sort of work that we're doing, you don't need that. If you're going to be doing it for high voltage, for safety is important and all that sort of stuff, fine, go get your Fluke or your Agilent or your Keithley or whatever. But for this sort of stuff, I think there's definitely a balancing point where you get realistic about what you need to spend. My power supply, on the other hand, Multicomp, as someone was saying, was just a generic aggregate brand. and that's like $250 for the power supply, and yeah, it does a perfectly good job. Does it have ripple? Probably, most likely, even though it is a linear power supply, which I recall someone on YouTube, not on YouTube, Amazon was griping about the fact that it was quite loud because the fans spin. And it's like, well, you've got to have the fan spinning on that thing because it's a linear power supply, so it's burn off all that heat. You can go and get yourself a switch mode power supply. You'll get a lot more noise in it, but at least you won't get your fans with noise. Anyway, but yeah, I think there's definitely, in many cases, there's a viable middle ground, even if it's not really in the middle. Cheap meters are fine typically, as you don't need 3 decimal places of precision. Yeah, I mean, for what we're doing, we basically need 1.5, 2 decimal places at the most. I mean, 12.56, it can be anything. Yeah, 12.6, that's pretty much what you'd look for in a voltage. So 3 significant digits. I think for the meters we need a fast continuity. You need the combined continuity in diode mode. The only thing I would say that would do good with these sort of the jobs we do is to have a good low ohms mode. That is going to cost you a bit more. If you can get down to about 10 milliohm resolution, that'd be really nice, but you're not going to see that on cheaper meters. Why are the spammers cropping up all of a sudden? States woke up, I guess. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm sort of thinking about what most techs will be dealing with. I mean, I've got my 60,000 count meter up there that can do microamps and stuff like that, but I almost never use it. Vicky meters are not as cheap as they used to be. Maybe they became popular. High troubleshooting, high current draw, and RTC power. Well, hey. Well, that's where I would like a good quality low ohms. Measuring current more often than not tends to be beyond what a lot of people think to do. You know, if you've got to get in between on the current, on the power supply, that's where having a decent power supply is useful. So what's this one go down to? Theoretically milliamp resolution. I have my doubts. It probably is probably more like 10 milliamp real resolution. But yeah, I mean there can be uses, but overall I think maybe spend 150 US on a meter and you should be okay. 250 for the power supply. You can get the ones that are only about 150 and they're okay too. They're also still linear power supplies. I think the ones you've got to watch for are the super cheap things. Like there are some very cheap $50 power supplies and they use pots for their controls. And so what tends to happen is as they wear out, you can be trying to dial in 4.2 volts and it will suddenly jump up to 6 volts. And if you've got your phone connected to it, well, you no longer have a phone connected. What do you think about the Rides RD606 power supply? Unfortunately, I don't know about it. Drexel Vaughan. Is it bad when a software vendor charges $400 a month for 15 years? $400 a month for 15 years for expired contract and just forgets to stop billing customer. Well, yeah, I mean that's debatable, isn't it? It's like, yes, you're right. Ethically, they should have stopped doing that, but at the same time, you kind of wonder why didn't the business catch up? Well, isn't that what accounts departments are meant to be doing, watching over that stuff? But I suppose it's a case of the left hand not knowing what the right hand's doing, and yeah. Let's see. Tom George, in my work, we check calibration on multimeters and other industrial electronics instruments, and most digital multimeters are pretty good within spec for up to 5 or 6 years. Fluke, of course, longer, yeah. Fluke could actually probably take a greater portion of this market, the board repair market, if they would come out with a meter that had data connection on it. But things like the 117 and I think it's the 115, they seem to be, I would happily use them if I didn't need my communications up here. The 17A, Yeah, I don't know if you can get them in Australia, can you? Or they're just predominantly an overseas release. It was a small business that did auto repair and only found out when I looked at the contract and was looking for some software updates and new PC. Yeah, that's probably a little low on them, so yeah, I agree with you on that one, Neuromatrix. I guess they were just sort of going, well, we don't want to cut off that supply of money. RD 6006, 6 amps, 60 volts. Is that a switch mode or is that linear? Some flukes now have remote displays. I have seen the detached head ones. They seem to be quite nice. But I gotta admit, the cheap meter that I have, where is it? Other than my Vicky. Damn it, where's my... Oh, here it is. I'll be back in a second. Okay, so this is the B-side ADM20, which now has been, for whatever reason, it's available under many different names. But whatever name it's under, this actually turned out to be a better meter than I expected. The nice thing is it's like got 4 AA's in here, so you're not going to run out with your 9-volt batteries, and that just drives you insane when the 9-volt batteries get chewed up in a day, particularly when you're doing diode mode work. The other nice thing is that it uses USB, mini USB, not micro, so it's a lot more robust. It's a small connection, and the cable out of it's usually quite thin and flexible. And what's the other thing? It's got 6,000 count on it, so it's pretty good. And it's fairly fast. The continuity mode is actually extremely fast, so see if it come up. Downside is, of course, you've got to actually get that function. I can't remember which one it is. This one? There, so it's almost instantaneous, which is what you want. Overall, it's a robust meter. The nice thing is the stand, they've actually done it right so that when you do, I'm going to put it down, you can turn the meter and it doesn't go like that. I've had meters where you try to turn, great, good on you, Paul, you just knocked it over. When you try to turn the selector, it just knocks the meter over, and it's like, well, that was pretty useless. So overall, for under $100, I consider this to be a pretty good meter, this type of meter to be pretty good for the work we do. And the USB connection to the PC for data collection, all that, it's quite good as well. These days, most of the time, this is just used as a temperature meter for me when I'm doing board drying, and I want to make sure that my PT1000 sensor assembly is working correctly, and that my drying oven does not become a reflow oven, because there's nothing like putting a board in your drying oven and coming back and finding all the parts are on the bottom of it. Yeah, I don't know any of these meters, Drexel, sorry. Slide out legs on the bottom. Tomorrow, so you're becoming that crazy Aussie bloke. I've always been a crazy Aussie bloke, mate. It's truth. The software company was under administration by the Department of Justice, so the offered settlement was just par for the course, and they had done so many bad things. Yeah, that's why it's good to have a accounting department that keeps track of things properly. That was an unfortunate scenario in that case. Yeah, I think with the flukes, if they had a nice data port on it, that would increase their market quite a bit, but I guess they don't want to cannibalize their high-end sales, because that basically is what would happen. Yeah, they're basically relying on the absence of that port to drive people up into the higher purchases, particularly that a lot of the people buying flukes will be in companies that have got a moderately good budget, and so they can say, well, I need this $600 fluke because I need the data connection. The company says, yeah, whatever, you got to get what you got to get. The Bryan 857, high refresh rate compared to most other meters. Yeah, the BK390 is actually quite slow, I found when I was doing the programming for it. The 393 I think was a little bit better, but yeah, the refresh rate can be a little bit annoying when you're trying to, catch up on whatever's happening with the transients or how quickly things are jumping up and down. Alright, I gotta go. So, thank you very much for watching, and maybe I'll be back in tomorrow, I'm not sure. Depends on what turns up in the post tomorrow. Australia Post hopefully will bring something for me to play with. If not, we'll give it a miss, but if I do, you'll know about it. So, in the meantime, you'll take care. I'll catch you later.